you were to ask me what I believe to be the most overlooked game of this franchise, the answer I would give might surprise you. Sister Location has currently been one of the trickiest games to unravel, not because of its surface level story, but because of the secrets that lie underneath. And I think it's time we finally explore some of the major questions that we've all had about this game, including one of the most confusing aspects, Elizabeth Afton herself. Elizabeth has always been such an interesting character to discuss, because we've never truly had a firm answer to how she fits in the overarching narrative. We don't actually seem to get any relevant dates for her death at all, merely serving as an event surrounding fixed points of the series. But what if the very thing we've been searching for has been hidden in plain sight all along? That's right, we might actually be close enough to figure out the exact day of her death if we take the time to connect the dots. Let's turn our attention to a place you might not expect, the FNAF 3 audio cassettes. You see, during our shift at Fazbear's Fright, we listened to these old tapes that were found at the abandoned Freddy's location. They introduced us to the concept of the Springlock suit, as well as how the suits remained operational during the era of Freddy's. These tapes have a pretty straightforward progression, and seem to all take place in the same week. Our best indicator of this is the transition between nights 2 and 3.
Please make sure the spring locks are fastened tight to ensure the animatronic devices remain fixed. We will cover this in more detail in tomorrow's session. Remember to smile, you are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Hello. For today's lesson, we will be continuing our training on proper suit handling techniques.
But what's most prominent about these calls is that they seem to coincide with the missing children's incident. Listen to what Phone Guy says during Night 5.
Hello. This is just a reminder of company policy concerning the safe room. The safe room is reserved for equipment and or other property not being currently used and as a backup safety location for employees only. This is not a break room and should not be considered a place for employees to hide and or congregate. And under no circumstance should a customer ever be taken into this room and out of the main show area. Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved and would like to remind employees that this costume is not safe to wear under any circumstances. Thank you, and remember to smile. You are the face of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
By this point, Phone Guy is insinuating that the company had just found out about the murders, because the next day, they sealed the back room to hide the evidence.
This is just to inform all employees that due to budget restrictions, the previously mentioned safe rooms are being sealed at most locations. Work crews will be here most of the day today, constructing a false wall over the old door face. Management also requests that this room not be mentioned to family, friends, or insurance representatives.
And if we take the date from the newspapers, June 26th, along with the year 1985, we can map out a pretty solid timeline for these events. But how does any of this relate to Elizabeth? Well, on night 4, we hear about a springlock failure at the sister location that causes the suits to be retired.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees.
And sure enough, there's a springlock suit we get trapped in on night 4.
You're inside something that came from my old pizzeria.
The springlock suit we heard about that caused the suits to be retired. We also know that the sister location, Circus Baby's Pizza World, was only open for one day.
Did you know that I was on stage once? It wasn't for very long, only one day.
So, according to the tapes, we actually have an exact date for Elizabeth's death, June 25th, 1985, the day before the MCI. And while this concept fits pretty nicely, it still leaves us with a lingering question. If this was the springlock suit we hear about in the tapes, then who is the springlock suit? It doesn't seem to be Fredbear or Spring Bonnie, because they were at Freddy's when the incident occurred. And even if this wasn't the case, the faceplates have this 4-way split that we've only seen present on the Fun Times. Another popular idea I've seen in the past is Funtime Chica. Funtime Chica is a character that was briefly revealed through teaser source code, a client of Afton Robotics known as Chica's Party World. She eventually made a full appearance in both Pizza Simulator and Ultimate Custom Night, so her absence would work out if she was this suit. The issue is, she's not really a Springlock suit, and none of the blueprints of the Fun Times ever suggest they are able to be worn. So, who really is the Springlock suit? Well, I think it's Ennard. Not the conglomerate himself, but the mask that conceals him. The mask has a four-way split, almost as if the faceplates were supposed to attach to a suit that would open this way. He's also a perfect match to the clown aesthetic present at Circus Baby's Pizza World. So, who got springlocked? Well, my best guess would be Afton. In this Silver Eyes, we've actually seen him retain scars from a previous unexplained springlock incident, only for him to get springlocked again at the end of the novel. This could explain how Elizabeth was able to slip past her father in the first place. But regardless if it was Afton or some other random employee, the place closes to cover up his daughter's murder, and the building gets sold off the next day, rebranding as a rental service for Circus Baby's animatronics. And this brings me to the sister location bunker, a facility whose origin dates back as early as the Nightmare experiments. But there's one thing that always felt strange to me about this place, and that's Observation 1. Observation 1 is one of the 3 locations from FNAF 4 we see attached to the sister location bunker, resembling the area we traverse in the FNAF 4 minigames. Presumably, we all thought this was supposed to be the real deal, the actual house, but ever since the release of Didophobia, it's caused a bit of skepticism, since we learned that the rest of these rooms are underground. This was apparent with Observation 2 in the short story, but what about the plush trap hallway? Well, you see these 4 extra dots? Seems like a weird detail considering we only ever see plush trap there. But in the Help Wanted remaster of Fun with Plush Trap, you can occasionally spot mini arenas in these corridors. It seems like Sister Location is telling us that these rooms are intertwined, to the point where the mini arenas actually traverse through these respective areas to meet Ballora in Sister Location. So I'm sure that some of you have noticed the dilemma here. If these gameplay sections are all supposed to be underground, would Observation 1 be any different? I mean, we've seen that this area draws power from the breaker room, and while having an underground replica of a pizzeria seems outlandish, it is a concept that is prevalent in the Twisted Ones. Does this suggest the FNAF 4 minigames were all hallucination? Truth be told, I want to give merit to this idea, but there's a few things keeping me from buying that. First off, we know that the bite really happened. The employees at Freddy's make reference to it, calling it the Big Bite in the week before. There are a few discrepancies with the map as well, as both parts and service and the playground seem to be completely absent. But the real reason I'm skeptical is because I don't even think these dots are meant to be the spring locks. Because if this truly is part of the entire underground facility, then these should be the BiddyBaps. They're the only sister location robots missing from the map. And if we compare them to the mini arenas from the FNAF 4 rooms, it's just weird for them to show up if the BiddyBaps are left out. Not only that, but their hideout is right next to Circus Gallery, just like how the mini arenas are next to Ballora Gallery, allowing for easy traversal of their respective locations. But besides the circumstantial evidence, let's go back to that example from the Twisted Ones novel. In the underground pizzeria, there's this hallucinogenic sequence that triggers for Charlie, which causes Balloon Boy animatronics to transform into lifelike children. And this is especially noteworthy considering the final showdown of this book is all about Charlie trying to escape the bunker while she is hunted down by Afton and his twisted animatronics. Like the Twisted Ones, this area could be a third fear chamber designed for the BiddyBaps, robotic-like children similar to Balloon Boy that use hallucinogenic gas to make them appear less blank and more human. This would explain why on night 2, you're only restoring power to these 2 sections. Afton doesn't need hallucinogenic gas to power the plush trap hallway, because he's already made working robot toys at this point. So if this concept truly holds water, does that mean the crying child went through Observation 1? Well, potentially. Something interesting I noticed is that he tends to hide under the table at Fredbear's, similar to how Charlie hides under the table to escape the Balloon Boys in the underground pizzeria. This behavior could stem from his experience being exposed to Observation 1, but then again, it wouldn't make a whole lot of difference if he didn't. Observation 1 is one of those clues that could either be the most groundbreaking thing ever, or it could potentially serve no significant purpose at all. Either what we saw in the minigames was a complete hallucination, or this is just some additional experiment chamber that never saw the light of day. And going back to my thesis, this is why I find sister location to be so tricky, because the answers to some of our biggest questions feel like they're in our face, but determining the severity of them is a whole different story.